Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel, and today I wanted to go over whether or not endgame crafting is worth it in patch 6.2. Any and all lists will be mentioned down below, and YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters do get access to these lists earlier. With all that being said, let's get into it. So to start, this video is really for anyone that wants to get into endgame crafting, that is already at the endgame crafting stage and just needs a bit of guidance or to see what is actually worth it at this moment. Now, of course, I am going off on my server, Daviouxx, on the data center chaos, but that's why the lists come in handy. You can go ahead and put your information whichever server you're on, and they're going to update with prices that are, of course, relevant to you. But the ideas here that we'll discuss will apply to anyone and everything, so all this information is totally viable. Now, let's start off with mistakes that people make. So the first mistake that I've made as a endgame crafter and really crafting anything, and I see so many people making this same exact mistake, is buying and crafting pre-craft materials without checking how much it actually costs. So what do I mean by this? Especially when you're crafting endgame crafts, I do recommend having a team craft list open. That way you can see the price to craft. Now let's go ahead and look at the grade 5 strength alchemist. The price to craft is 632 gil, but you can go on Daviouxx and get it for 33 gil each. You are saving 600 gil a piece for every time you go ahead and get this alchemist. Now, what if you need a high quality? Probably that's why you're crafting it from the base materials. Even at high quality, you can go ahead and buy it at 300 a piece. So especially take a look at the list and take a look at the price to craft, because you can not only save a lot of gil by buying it pre-crafted, you can save a lot of time. Usually, especially when I'm crafting Psychon Bavrace, the rarefied craft for the purple scripts, I never ever buy raw palm syrup. I always buy the pre-crafted palm sugar. I don't need it high quality, I just need as many as I can get at a time so I can sit down and just craft purple scripts. Price to craft 752, the price on Moogle 554. When you're buying 900 of these at a time, saving almost 200 gil each, times 900, you're already saving a ton of gil. And remember, every craft requires crystals, especially culinarian crafts and alchemist crafts. Anything that requires blue, red, green, purple crystals, it's actually most likely going to be cheaper to just go ahead and buy it pre-crafted. The next big mistake I see people make all the time is not optimizing your macros. Usually you have a macro and you just stick with it, but eventually you upgrade your gear, eventually you get better food with the patch coming out, or you want to be able to use less high quality materials. I've been using this macro for a week now, and it works perfectly for my grade 7 tinctures, but for the brand new food such as the carrot pudding, it does not work as good. In fact, even with 2 high quality materials, I still only managed to get 82% quality. But I kept using it, I didn't change it, and you know what? I ended up with a lot of normal quality food that really I ended up selling at a loss. And again, the best thing about Teamcraft, you can go here and use the abilities to go ahead and workshop your rotation to make sure you can get as much as you can out of your stats, out of your food, and out of the high quality materials you have or you might not want to use. Now, this is my updated rotation, same gear, same food, same everything, and I'm still using 2 high quality ingredients. Let me lower that down. I'm totally fine with only 1 high quality, but I wouldn't be okay without 1, so 1 is just enough for me to go ahead and craft carrot pudding at a 100% high quality rate. And optimizing your macro is not just if it's going to be at a 100% quality. That is only one part. Another thing you should be looking for is having as few steps as possible. The less steps you have in a macro to get that max quality, the less time it takes to go ahead and do the macro. Another thing, try and cut out any droughts or syrups that you might have. every 15 minutes you have to refresh it, and that really takes time when you're trying to craft as much as you can. Or you end up like me, 15 minutes later you still hit synthesize and you realize, frick, I hit the macro and no, I didn't drink the drought. Now this craft is kind of screwed. So cut out the droughts, and if you can, try and cut out food as well. For lower level crafts, especially for script crafts, you are not required. If you have the brand new gear pentamelded, you don't really require food. If you pop food, you're actually cutting into the profit of everything you craft with it, because it does cost money to go ahead and eat food. Even if you crafted everything yourself, gathered everything yourself, you can go ahead and sell that food instead of using it. So if you don't need food, don't use it. And of course, if you're interested in my endgame macro rotations, they will be in the Discord along with all the lists for this video. The last mistake I see people do is spend way too long undercutting. Now, of course, undercutting is necessary to go ahead and sell stuff, especially in a bigger market, but really think how long you're actually spending versus how much you're actually making. Would I spend more than 2 hours a day undercutting for 200k? No. Even if it is an endgame piece, such as the casting coat for our job gear, I wouldn't do it. So of course, see how much time you're spending and then figure out whether you want to spend that undercutting or actually crafting and posting more things. Now let's go over the different types of endgame crafting. And this is especially important if you are new to the endgame crafting scene and you want to go ahead and see what you want to focus on. Now, of course, the first one is gear. That would be job gear or crafting gear. This is the endgame stuff. This is stuff that people are going to need when they want to get into raiding, and this is what they're going to need if they want to get into crafting. So there is gear, but another important facet of endgame crafting is the raiding food and raiding potions. Now, of course, everyone is going to need this when they are going to go ahead and raid, but the best part about it is that it's consumable, so it's not a one-time buy, and especially depending on the days of the week, you have a good chance to sell it for a lot more on certain days than others. For me, the prices start to go down at around the Saturday, Sunday, Monday days, and it starts to go back up on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Gear is only really good at the very beginning of the patch, and it goes down really quickly, so with gear you either have to be there week 1 crafting or you're gonna have a tough time. The other type of endgame crafting is endgame intermediate crafting. Now this ranges from just as hard of a craft as the gear itself. You need max stats, and of course all the statistics, if you are interested, will be in the pinned comment with the melds and the gear. But once you have the best stats you can get, you can go ahead and start crafting these. But you do have an option for a bit of an easier time. The berry cloth here and the Titan Noboa leather are the hard parts, but the chondrite ingot is still required at the high quality. You can still make quite a bit of money and is infinitely easier than the other two. You need less stats, you need less gear, and it is still possible to go ahead and high quality these. Now the last part of endgame crafting is script crafting. Now I do have a whole video dedicated to just script crafting. This is in the rotations and requirements are very simple for white script and purple script crafting. So if you are a little bit intimidated by the end game, this is still end game, but of course it's a bit easier. I do recommend clicking on that video at the top right. But even with white script simple crafts level 89, you can still go ahead and get a ton of cutting materia 7s and a few other expensive items with just white scripts. But of course, let's go ahead and start taking a look at the list and what is profitable. So here is the endgame job gear list. There is a total of 75 crafts, and we're going to go ahead and see how much it costs to go ahead and craft this and how much profit you'll make. So of course you would go ahead and fill prices based on market board prices and fill prices based on market board prices your server only. So I would spend around 5 million and I would make 16 million back with a profit of 11 million. Now this is pretty good, but that is 75 whole crafts, and the pre-crafts are not super simple either, so do keep that in mind. But of course, go ahead and look at the price of craft. Once again, 16.3 thousand for the Illimite ingot, but you can go on Sagittarius And if you only need normal quality, you can go ahead and buy it for 15,000. Same with the chondrite. At normal quality, it is cheaper than its price to craft, so always check that before you go ahead and buy the base items. And of course, this list is down below in the Discord. And now here is the 6.2 intermediates list. It is for gear, food, and potions. So from spending 1.2 million, you can go ahead and make 3.5 million with a profit of 2.2 million. Now, especially take a look at the price of craft and pay attention to the ones that are especially worth it. The bellow lumber is 11,000 to craft, but at high quality, you can sell it for 28,000. The dexterity alkahest, you can craft it for 1,000, but you can sell it at high quality for 10k and normal quality at 10k as well. Same with the vitality alkahest, 1k to craft, 12k to go ahead and sell. So this ranges from easier crafts to harder crafts. And of course, take a look at the list to see what fits best for you. And here is the food and pots 6.2 for the job, crafting, and gathering classes. And for spending 2.1 million, you can go ahead and sell everything for a profit of 5.5 million. And of course, always pay attention to the price to craft. The Cunning Craftsman's Drought costs 949 to go ahead and craft, but if you craft it at normal quality, you are crafting at a loss. Try and always make sure you're getting high quality. And always remember with food and pots, every time you craft, you get 3 for every 1 craft. So while this does have 100 per each, you're only going to be crafting 34 times. And now this is the White Crafter script farming list. This is for max 2,000 scripts because I made this for the expanded our max amount of crafter scripts. But all you have to do is double the price spending and double your earning. So if I spend 39,000 crafting one of these crafts, specifically for me, I always focus on the rarefied drought. It is my personal favorite, but you could go ahead and spend a little bit less on something like the rarefied king crab cake. It is 2.2k, or the rarefied giant popoto pancakes, 2.1k for 13. But of course, I have a ton of rarefied drought materials already. Now, what do I go ahead and choose to buy? All you have to do is go up to these items here and select whatever you want. So usually I would go with the Cunning Materia 7s. For 2,000 White Crafter scripts, I can get 10 of the Cunning Materia 7s. So if I spend 39,000, I could make back 94k with a profit of 54,000. Or I could go ahead with the Kingcraft Daviouxx Materia. For 2,000 scripts, I could get any of them. For spending 39,000, I could go ahead and make back 841,000. So it really depends what you want to go ahead and buy. All of these are viable. Of course, always make sure by checking the market board information here to see how often they are actually bought. But of course, the Kingcraft Daviouxx Materia might look a bit too good to be true, but it is used in the brand new titanium weapons, so that's why it's so much. And now this is the purple collectible crafting list. I updated it with our brand new crafting materials. So if you go ahead and spend 10k to go and craft 4 sets of the rarefied Psychon Bavrois, and you only buy the Sunset Carrot, 38 per 4 crafts, you would make back a benefit of 48,000. This is especially important to go ahead and see whether or not crafting for immutable solutions is worth it. And again, you only need 2 crafts for an immutable solution. Now it costs 5.1 thousand to go ahead craft 2 Psychon Bavroises for 1 immutable solution. And I would be losing 963 gil per craft. So of course, crafting it for yourself is actually not always worth it. But if I do go ahead with the Pinolo Tomato or the Sunset Carrot, I would actually make quite a bit. So now let's actually answer the question, is endgame crafting worth it? Yes, but it depends. Personally, endgame crafting is really good, but for gear, and now it's kind of seeping into intermediates, it's really hard to penetrate the market. A lot of people gravitate towards it because Usually when you hit level 90, when you finally pentameld your crafting and gathering gear, your natural progression is to go ahead and craft and move on to something like gear. But since so many people think that way, the undercutting game is really strong, and especially since it's not something consumable, since most people only need to buy it once, you're not going to get as many sales per day as you would with something like food and potions. Now, food and potions are truly one of the best ways to endgame craft. It's consumable, you can work on what days to sell and what days to buy the materials. It goes up and down in a predictable pattern for your server. And as you can see, you can sell a lot for a ton. Now, naturally, it will go down as the patch progresses. Even if you start a month from now, you'll still be making a ton because remember, the gatherables will of course also go down with it. So personally, I would skip gear. You can possibly do intermediates, but if you really want to endgame craft, food and potions are it. Now, if you don't have pentamelded gear or the best gear, script crafting is incredible. You can make a ton with just scripts. You don't have to invest in the melds and you don't have to invest in the gear. You can still make a ton. You can also supplement your crafts. What do I mean by this? If you go ahead and craft purple script materials, you can get your pinolo tomatoes or your sunset carrots, and you can go ahead and cut a big part of the spending part of raid food and make a ton more gil. You can also send out your retainers for script materials. I always send out my retainer for ambrosial water, Burknan saps, and Lygerbera. A lot of these are level 80 gatherables, so your retainer goes and gets 50 at a time every hour. So it is a perfectly viable and a wonderful way to also endgame craft. So guys, that was everything about endgame crafting, all the lists that you'll need, and of course everything will be down below in the pinned comment and in my Discord. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys like the new model. We did this last week for or actually 2 weeks ago for my 1-year anniversary here on YouTube and on Twitch. But of course, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much to the YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters. You all keep the channel going. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Goodbye!